you figured out that annuities weren't going to solve it. Obviously, a lot of the certain countries, we have the Social Security system here in the U.S. I know you're from Ireland. Countries all over the world have their own forms of a sort of pension to protect people after they retire. But it's pretty obvious here that Social Security is not going to be a viable solution, most likely by the time I reach retirement age. And as well, if you just talk to anybody about the sorts of checks they're getting from Social Security, it's not enough to live on. So that you have to supplement it somehow. So we know that what's available from the government is not enough, and what's available on the private market currently is suboptimal, to be polite. So how did you come to this conclusion that tontines were a viable alternative?
Well, just if I comment on the Social Security pensions situation first. There was a Citigroup report out, I think it was about 2 years ago now. They calculated that the richest 20 OECD countries in the world have a combined pension deficit of 78 trillion, which is bigger than global GDP. And they forecast that this is going to rise to 400 trillion by 2050. So basically, it's rising faster than GDP. So if you've got a problem that big, that's completely out of control, it's not getting solved anytime soon. So anybody I talk to in Europe that's around, more like your age, I say, how do you feel about the pension system? You have to pay in at the moment. They're like, we'll never see it. We'll never see it. We'll never see a penny. It's like a tax. They've just completely written it off. If you think about the US, obviously, this is where we are at the moment. There's of the 50 states, I think 49 of them are so underfunded that there's a good chance they'll run out of money between the next 7 and 15 years, which is unbelievable. And again, it's an unsolvable problem. There's one state, which is Wisconsin, which is fully funded. And the reason you can trust in getting your pension from Wisconsin is that it's run exactly like a tontine.
So what is some of the differences between the way that it's run in Wisconsin? You say it's run like a tontine, but why don't we get into the nitty-gritty? What does that mean to be run like a tontine?
So if you think about from a pensions perspective, in the good old days, you have defined benefit pension. Yeah. So your uncle works all his life for GE, let's say, once the greatest company in the world, some would say. He contributes every month, and he knows when he reaches retirement, he's going to receive a pension for the rest of his life. Unfortunately, all those calculations that were made by GE originally were wide of the mark. They didn't put enough money aside to be able to make up for that, and now I think you've read all the articles. Ultimately, GE's pension fund is probably going to take it down over the next, certainly less than a decade. And that's like almost 600,000 families that were expecting this payment for the rest of their life. That's now just going to disappear. So what the world has done is they've shifted away from defined benefit pensions because they've realized they're unaffordable for governments or for big corporations. And they've moved to something called defined contribution pensions. And basically a defined contribution pension is that you save into all of your life. And then when you get to retirement, you can now start drawing it out a little bit at a time. So it's great that they get you saving, so you've accumulated some capital, but then you got the problem of working out how much can I spend every month so that I don't run out of money.
There was an example, in our conversations before this interview you brought up of one country in particular that has some pretty horrifying statistics about a similar plan where you have to pay in, but you reach that age and it's totally available to you, which is how the defined contribution plans usually work. And Malaysia, where it was 90% of all savers have run through their entire retirement savings within 18 months of reaching retirement age.
Yeah.
So there still has to be, we as human beings are still, at least with our current education system and the way the world works, we're not equipped to actually save for ourselves in this way. And in some ways, there's a little bit of hand-holding that needs to be done. And that's kind of where I think your plan meshes some of the defined contribution aspects, which is that there isn't a set payout for everybody at the end, but knowing full well that you still can't give everybody the keys to the kingdom right when they reach retirement age. So your defined ambition plan. So can we talk a little bit about that?
First of all, if you look at Wisconsin and Netherlands and Denmark, so Netherlands and Denmark are the only A-rated pensions in the world. There's an annual report that comes out every year. And the reason they're so highly rated is that they have the ability to adjust the amount that they're paying. So if there's been a market crash scenario, as there was in 2008 and as is likely to happen in the not too distant future, then the pension fund has the ability to adjust the payments that they've been making going forward. So the amount is not fixed. Yeah. So it's like a safety mechanism that allows them just to balance the books. That's it. It's that simple. Just allowing that feature enables the fund to maintain its solvency all the way along. So when you're saving into the Danish state pension, they'll tell you what they expect you to receive, but it's an ambition. It's not a guarantee because they have that adjustment mechanism that's going to ensure that they're able to keep the promises that they're making.
So they're able to keep their promise. I mean, it seems like a very straightforward methodology. What's preventing the rest of the world from following this model?
Nothing. They're doing it. So Canada has just introduced legislation last year, making I think they call it group life pools or something like that. I can't remember the name off the top of my head, but they've offered tax concessions for people when they come together to pool their money. The Royal Mail Pension Fund, which I think is about a $15 billion fund, converted to a scheme like this last year. There was a lot of objections from the insurance industry, understandably, but they were able to convert their whole fund, and there was a 90% approval rating. And now the UK government has come out and said, look, this is actually a great idea. We need to put in place a framework so that everybody can start moving to this type of model, because this is the future.